good morning, and welcome to another Exit Strategies radio show episode. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As we always say, we appreciate you, we love you, you know that. So we want to jump right into, guys, some subject matter and, if you will, content for today. Guys, before I go too far, I'd be remiss if I did not give a shout out to some of our loyal listeners that tune in. I missed the anniversary this past weekend. Not this weekend, just past for you who listening to our podcast, but those of you who listening live the previous weekend, guys, want to give a huge shout out. Happy anniversary to Flo and Mac McKellar or Mac, Larry McKellar, Mac, and his wife, beautiful wife, Flo. To happy anniversary, guys. Many of you are celebrating a lot of life. And thank goodness, thank God for life. As we have been challenged over the last couple of years with that term and that word life, both what is quote unquote the new normal in life, what is, their outcome and results, if you will, of testing, and what does that look like, and to be very direct about it, what looms over our head or what looms over the heads of many, the concerns, guys, that come along with a positive, COVID test. I mean, there's so much around that single word of life that has changed over the last couple of years, and we want to give celebration to all of you who are listening, all of you who share our content, share our show, all of you who are just part of the Exit Strategies radio show family. Want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for you. You are celebrating birthdays, again, anniversaries. Happy birthday, happy anniversary to you. So, guys, look, this past week we talked about statistics, and we're doing a lot of sprinkling of that for a very particular purpose, guys. We are, quote unquote, stacking our deck with information that is relevant to you, our consumer, stuff that you should be paying attention to, but most importantly, that you should be working to gain some additional understanding of. Now, look here for those church pastors, and for those people that are in clergy that may be listening to our show today. Please, please, please don't take this to be anything blasphemous. But I want to say this in a context, in context to what we see oftentimes in our church community, guys. We are very quick to take information, but not have the understanding of it, and then in turn try to interpret or apply that information either to our lives or someone else's lives, or give them that information for them to apply. And we want to recognize that, guys, information is just that. It's just information. What you do with it is what matters. And we want to make sure that you all have not only the information, but you have an interpretation of the information that would allow you a proper, prosperous, positive application to your life. So with that, we're going to get into a little bit more, if you will, information, and then we're going to get into how to apply that, quote unquote, to your life. So, guys, we're going to talk today about, mistakes and misnomers, guys. That's kind of what we're going to talk about, because oftentimes we have misunderstandings. So this past week, obviously, we pay attention to some information that comes across. We don't take in everything. I'm a firm and advocate, firm believer and advocate of not taking all things in. Unfortunately, all information is not necessarily good for you. That gossip, that randomness, that negative energy that comes from some of the information that is put in front of us, guys, will and can pollute you, can pollute your thinking, and most importantly, can pollute your life. And in turn, there's that word life again, and it can pollute your life in such a way that im- it impedes your progress. I guess that is probably the easiest way to put it, that it impedes your progress, and we don't want that, right? So I just happened to glimpse upon an article this past week, guys. And that article was shared by one of my colleagues, my man Jay. Love him to death. He's a great guy, high energy, high producing, and he's just real down home, good people. So shout out to Jay Kim. You guys that know him, he may be from, and he could be right now anywhere from South Carolina, Georgia, all the way over to Alabama, because that is all the territory, and as well as Florida he touches, that he serves. So great guy. But he shared an article that when I read it, I'm like, when I read the headline, is oh, it's one of those headlines that guys that'll grab your attention, but it is just pure misinformation, misinforming consumers, misinforming you guys who are out here as potential buyers in this current real estate market. So real estate is, as you all know that have been listening to this show, and many of you know who may be in a position where you are actually day to day right now. Maybe you're searching for a home, or someone who is, and you're getting a lot of feedback from them. Or if you're the person, you're taking in a lot of information, and oftentimes the picture looks a certain way. So I want to first address how that picture looks. So the way that picture looks, current climate, is that it is impossible for you to find a home. That's what the picture looks like. It is a bleak outlook for many people, many of you who are going out into a real estate market currently that has a shortage of homes on the market. There's not a shortage of homes. There's a shortage of homes on the market, as well as increasing prices, as well as everything else that's going on. Now, the everything else that's going on is the attitudes of people. See, we used to exist and live in a time when people had concern for others as well as concern for themselves. Now we live in a time and we experience a society where people have far less concern, or less concern for others, and far more concern for them. And many of you probably are looking at the radio, or maybe looking out at your device if you're listening online or podcast, and you're saying to yourself, well, that's how it's supposed to be. If I don't look out for me, who is going to look out for me? Yeah, I don't necessarily fully agree with that argument. I'm not saying that you should be not necessarily fully or self-sacrificing at all times. However, I am a firm believer that our God calls us to sacrifice ourselves for others. That's what service is. You can't serve someone else and serve yourself at the same time. And many of you who listen to this show for some time, you may have heard that a number of times over the years, that you cannot serve yourself and serve someone else from the same spoon at the same time. So you have to be willing to pass that spoon to serve someone else, which means that you're not able to serve yourself at that exact same time. That is what service is. And that is one of the things that we have lost sight of. But I don't want to go too far into all of that. What I do want to make sure that we're talking about and understanding is that we are in a society where sometimes things happen in this real estate market that is a direct reflection of how we look at ourselves as people, how we look at ourselves personally. So what we're seeing is, again, buyers are looking at a market that has lower inventory on market, not a shortage of homes. Remember that. They're looking at higher prices. They're looking at sellers who are changing their minds, or otherwise at times seeking to change their mind about contracts. Buyers sometimes don't feel they have the same right or same ability. Sometimes buyers just feel, okay, wait a minute, I'm overwhelmed and I'm just going to back out, or I'm going to disappear, and that's it. And there's no consequence for that. So we're seeing a lot of situations where both buyers and sellers are finding themselves at a point of having to take quote unquote legal consideration. What are my options because this person is not performing, or what are my options because that person is not performing in our contract? One of us, if not both of us, are in some type of default situation what are the potential risks, peril, outcomes that I can expect or that could happen. That is something that has become more and more prevalent in these particular days and times. But there's also a under 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 current, if you will, as kind of a tagline that many people are placing consumers, as well as there's even some people that quote unquote are around the industry, but and trying to get in the industry, but not a part of the industry, who are putting or who are allowing or otherwise creating this ripple and flow as an undercurrent, saying that that real estate agents are being greedy and setting the prices on homes, right? And no, that's not how that works. So, in response to, well, I say in response, but in the observation to that article that was being shared, this particular buyer, first and foremost, had experienced a few contracts that fell out. They've been searching, had made multiple offers on a lot of different offers on a lot of different properties, over 15 offers, around 15 offers, and in turn, they had found ratified two contracts. Both contracts fell apart. One contract, the seller decided to just refuse to cooperate, just changed their mind about selling the home, just didn't respond after contract. It was closing day, didn't show up, just completely after everything was supposed to be said and done, ready to go to the closing table. They just, hey, I'm not going to show up. Another instance, the seller decided, okay, nah, I changed my mind about selling the house to you. The reason being because they got an offer elsewhere without an agent involved. And but what I mean by not an agent involved, a relocation. They qualified or they were part of a relocation, and they got a relocation offer that was higher than what they had as an offer or contract on their house, and they had no agents, and they would sell and not have to compensate any agents. So if the agent was involved in pushing that, then that would have been a situation where, to be very frank and direct about it, hey, the agent would have been compensated in that transaction. But this is a situation that the seller made a decision that was in their best interest and had no regard or no concern about any other parties that would have been involved in that particular transaction. So, that is something that we always have to make sure that we're paying attention to, and most importantly, understanding, because we're taking what sounds good and we're spreading it as it is fact, when it is not fact. It is merely opinion, sometimes pure myth. Real estate agents do not set the prices for a home, and they do not establish what homes sell for, period. So, guys, that's a good place for a break right there, guys. We're up on our first break. As always, you know what you're listening to, Exit Strategies Radio Show. Y'all hold tight, and we'll be right back. Congratulations to Exit Realty Low Country Group's Realtor of the Week, none other than Jessica Collins. You can reach Jessica Collins at 843-568-7299 or text Jess to your nest. That's JESS, the number 2, YOURNEST, Jess to your nest, to 85377. You guys give Jess a holler now. Guys, second segment, Exit Strategies Radio Show. I am your host. Yeah, you know who I am. Colvin J. Millett, broker and owner of Exit Realty, Low Country Group, and beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina. Hey, your first time, you know what I'm saying. You know what I always say. Y'all buckle in, hold tight, because you're in for a treat. Because our mission is always to empower you, to inspire you, to help you go further and farther than you ever would have imagined. Yeah, we're going to incorporate that in there somewhere, because that's what we're doing. We're incorporating, yes, we're weaving into your life good positive energy, good positive messages, and most importantly, helping you achieve good positive results. Guys, we thank you so much for listening. So, hey, look. So before the break, we were talking about that myth, if you will, that real estate agents, yeah, woo, I'm sorry. I laugh at this. Determine what a house is sell for. That is by far not the case. As a real estate professional who works with both buyers and sellers, I have been in the conversation. I have also been a outside the door. Hey, what did y'all talk about in there? Participant in a real estate transaction. And what I can tell you with certainty is that inside the room, there is different things that are going on that on the outside may not have seemed as if that is what happened behind the door. Real estate sells for what someone is willing to pay for it and somebody's willing to sell it for, period. Now, what real estate agents have as an advantage that consumers don't have typically is insight and a pulse on the activity in the market. So I'm going to give you this side story to kind of back up this part of the conversation. So Inman News is a large, major real estate news organization. So they track information from all over the world and about real estate. So just merely real estate. And they in turn create, write articles to share and provide insight. So in 2021, so this year, they went through the process of naming the 12 hottest markets in the United States, or neighborhoods, I'm sorry. So that is a bit deeper of a dive into real estate than most consumers make. See, when real estate practitioners tend to, in our market, tend to talk about, or let me back up a little bit. Real estate practitioners and myself in particular, when I'm talking to you all about real estate in whatever market, I'm usually talking about it from a whole, meaning the entire market, not necessarily drilling down. So, what makes a neighborhood or an area, what makes it more desirable? So, some of you would start with, well, the area is more desirable because, you know, there's less crime or the schools are better or this, that, and the third. So I want to shift your thought process a little bit with this to bring you around to this thought. And that thought is that the neighborhood is not more desirable because of those things alone. Those things are oftentimes a byproduct of the neighborhood becoming more desirable. So, what I mean by that is schools get better because there is more participation in the school. There is more participation from parents, from people that are living in the neighborhood, living in the area. People move into a given area and then they get quote unquote more involved. They get involved in politics, they get involved in schools, they get involved in this, they get involved in that. And in turn, what happens is the byproduct is all those things, quote unquote, get better. Schools get better because the parents are showing up, they're volunteering, they're coordinating events, they're building a bigger sense of community. And in turn, that also happens on the other side when the neighborhood is going through, or the area, if it's an area, either one is going through something similar. What I mean by that is that you can, you can see that the neighborhood goes through this morphosis, this change. Sometimes unfortunately that more that change looks like or is gentrification. Sometimes it is people moving in and other people moving out. Sometimes it is people of more or different or greater, maybe lower, whatever it may be, financial means that may be coming into an area. Sometimes that means something the complete opposite. At the end of the day, the neighborhood morphs, it changes. So as that change takes place, in turn, the element that came into the neighborhood begins to grow and change the neighborhood because it grows and it begins not necessarily to take over. That sounds bad, but it is an adaptation or adoption of the philosophies of the people that have come into the neighborhood. So, for example, you move into a neighborhood, maybe you moved or relocated here from another part of the state. Maybe you came from another part of the country. Neighborhood that you moved from, or area you moved from, you were very involved in local politics, very involved in the local schools. You move into this area, and in turn, you see an opening on the school board that is the best of both worlds for you, politics as well as involvement in the schools. You in turn apply, file, run for the school board, end up on the school board, and there you go. Now you're serving and you're helping your community. And in turn, the area that you serve benefits from your leadership. And in turn, there is other changes that kind of come behind that. And overall, what goes on is a change and shift in attitudes of other people. And that change and shift then applies the strategy and work that changes the face of the area, changes the neighborhood. That is what growth looks like. That is what change looks like. So what we're talking about, guys, is that making an area more desirable then influences the home prices in that area. So oftentimes what makes an area more desirable is convenience and its amenities. And its convenience as far as, okay, if I'm in the neighborhood, prime example, the neighborhood that I live in, we have sidewalks. Every subsection has an amenity center with swimming pool and maybe a little clubhouse or other area, play area. We have streets that weave in between all the various subsections. We have retail, so we have grocery stores, we have restaurants, gas stations, all those within a short drive. Well, I say a short drive, but within a relatively defined space, and we have more coming. So we have recreation. We have a YMCA in our neighborhood that offers sports. There's a library, swimming pools, basketball courts, a number of different things to allow people the ability to have recreation, have retail therapy, and in turn, schools, shopping, all that other stuff, the fundamentals that anyone needs. Neighborhoods like that are more desirable than areas and neighborhoods that do not have those kind of things close by. Not having a grocery store within a reasonable distance of your home makes it more challenging. So when, I look oftentimes at certain rural areas. So prime example, I was in a rural area this past weekend meeting with the owner of a store who is looking to sell the store. Excuse me. So in that neighborhood, what happened was, or in that area, the community store, if you will, gains traction. And what I mean by that is where people go to pick up small packages, things of that nature, because the closest grocery store, larger grocery store, is 10 or more miles away. So in that particular area, home prices don't skyrocket because it's a little bit less desirable because of things like that. Yes, you're in a rural area. Yes, your neighbors may be a little bit further away from you. Yes, it's a little bit more quiet, a little bit less traffic. And yes, those things do have some desirability. However, convenience is not there and amenities aren't there. So when you look between the two locales, a neighborhood that has both convenience and amenities and an area that doesn't have either, the neighborhood with the convenience and the amenities will sell for more. So as we keep having this conversation, this ongoing conversation or dialogue um, about home prices, about who determines, I want you all as consumers to understand that you determine home prices. You determine it by what you're willing to pay for it. If you're not willing to pay for it, great. However, on the other side, what a seller is willing to accept also matters in that grand theory as well. And if what you're willing to pay is not what the seller is willing to accept, you won't buy. So then you get another decision. You get to decide whether or not you're going to continue to participate in the real estate market or whether or not you will never own a home or you just won't. So it is always about meeting of the minds. That's what real estate is about. Real estate is contracts, is documents, is forms. There's a whole lot more than just looking at houses and wanting to buy a house. There's a whole lot more than, what you see on television. There's a lot that goes into it. So guys, thank you so much for continuing to tune into Exit Strategies Radio Show. Guys, we'll continue this conversation. And y'all stay tuned because we got some real special guests coming up here soon that's going to give you a lot more insight into particular matters that may be of greater and great importance to you. Guys, you know what I say, and y'all listen for it. As y'all know I love you. We'll talk to you soon.